property management. It can be either angelic and just so fun, or it can be complete hell. And you get to choose which one. Into this video, we are going to cover everything property management with a virtual assistant, whether you should do it or you shouldn't do it, and my answer is going to shock you. Alright guys, so if you're getting into real estate or you're in real estate, one thing that you probably are going to have if you don't already is properties, right? I once heard a quote that says, Justin, if a stockbroker does not invest in stocks, should you trust them to trade your stocks? Like, if they are such an expert at what they do, and they don't participate themselves in the investing side of it, should you trust them? Now, I'm not saying that you have to have investment properties to be a good real estate agent, but what I do suggest to you is as you're trying to build a little bit of a nest egg for your retirement, why not invest in something that you're already good at and you understand the market? I heard a quote the other day by someone, and I believe it was Haro. I don't know the guy personally, but I saw it in a Facebook group, some KW Facebook group that I'm still a part of, and they said that investing in real estate is basically the legal way of inside trading. Like, you get people to come to you that say, Justin, I need to sell this property tomorrow. I don't care who it goes to. I don't care for what price. I just have these circumstances that require me to move the property. And so in order to move this property, I'll just take it. So you as a real estate agent, any deal that ever comes across your plate, you should be the first one to consider buying it. Obviously following the proper disclosures, following all the different proper processes, but you should analyze every single transaction that comes across as you purchasing it first for investment purposes. So I love that quote. Investing in real estate is the legal way of inside trading, as long as you're following obviously disclosures and making sure you're following your state's rules about buying property as a licensed real estate agent. And so with that, I want to dive in today to how we use our virtual assistants to help manage property for me. Now, I am still growing in my investment portfolio. So I am 23 years old as of the video or the shooting of this video, and I currently have 2 investment properties. Both of them are in the state of Colorado. I currently live in Nashville. I don't really quite know where my journey is going to take me, so I didn't purchase a home in Nashville. I'm currently just renting an apartment here in Nashville, but I got 2 investment properties in Colorado. Both investment properties of mine, they were what I call a trailing primary rental. So the very first one I built when I was 20 years old, built it probably a little too big, but it was a great investment property now, probably over $100,000 in equity. So I lived in that property, moved to the next one. So long story short, we have investment properties, but I don't have a ton. And so when you're kind of in the beginning stages of having investment properties, cash flow is critical. In the Colorado market, when I first bought my first 2 homes, even though they have a lot of equity in them now, they didn't have a lot of equity because I used primary loans. So I think my first one, I put like 3% down and I got paid back. So it was really like $0, and then I did the same on the next one. So there wasn't a lot of gap for cash flow in our high price market. But the way that I was able to create that gap over time, and especially now today with as many virtual assistants as I have, is I use virtual assistants to manage my properties, right? The biggest thing that you use a property management group for is the coordination of getting them leased out and, doing property checks and doing the whole 9 yards. And honestly, someone once told me, Justin, you can eliminate 99% of the problems if you just focus 100% of your time on putting the right tenant in there. Even if your property needs to sit an extra month or two to get the right tenant that you feel is a perfect tenant, they have a great record, you can call references of places they've rented before. Like, you don't have to settle for mediocre. Like, you don't have to settle. You waiting an extra month of keeping maybe it empty in that $2,000, you are going to save that tenfold over the course of a few years with a rock solid tenant. And so once I figured that out, because in the beginning I didn't have that figured out, but once I had that figured out, it was so easy to transition into property management. And so I had always done it myself. I had okay tenants, I had bad tenants, and it was just because I was lazy and I was worried about getting them filled right away. So whoever would submit an application that looked like they could breathe and fog up a mirror, I took, right? Like, you have the money, you have the income to support it, it's gonna take you. Well, what I realized is it was when I was able to really narrow down and get more applicants over a longer time, it allowed me to get better tenants. And so as I got better tenants, I started to get such good tenants that I was like, even when I moved to Dallas, a year ago and moved to Nashville now, like, I didn't need a property management group because the tenants were literally improving my property for me. Now, again, I know that's not going to happen if you have 100 properties or 50, but when I had 2 at the time, it was easy. Like, if my 2 tenants were improving my properties, I didn't have to, why would I pay in our market, which was roughly 8 to 10% of a $2,600 a month, why was I going to pay $270 a month for my tenants to be improving my property and sending me pictures of the property and updates, and I didn't need a property management company to take care of that? Because with my property management, I was telling my property managers what to do. I was telling them, I want this contractor used, I want this. Like, they were calling me for everything anyways. And so when I had my personal virtual assistant, so my personal executive admin, now she takes care of my property management for me. So it's really, really easy. So when you start with a VA to have your property management, you start off with this. You need your VA to have the name of everybody on the lease. The VA needs to be able to know where to find the lease. The VA needs to know what day of the month that the money should be deposited into your account. So all of my homes now, they're on direct deposit. So the homeowners, I work it out with them, and as part of the approval process is I really want to see if I can find someone that has the ability to obviously deposit electronically. That's a big plus. And so now I just say, hey, on the 2nd of each month, I need you to check, have I received money from these 2 homes or not yet? And if I haven't, she'll alert me. If I have, she doesn't have to alert me. She'll go log into my mortgage statements and she'll pay the mortgage. Now, if you're like, Justin, is that safe for your VA to have access to that? Well, my virtual assistant has access to pay my mortgage. She doesn't have access to my bank account. So she has account-only access on my bank account, so she can go in there and review and read. But she does have a direct login to my mortgage statement. Because when you go in, you log into your direct mortgage statement, the only thing that someone can do with money in there is to pay the mortgage. So the biggest risk that I have with having my VA do that is maybe she would, if she wanted to be crazy, she could pay too much on my mortgage, but that's not, there's worse things that could happen in the world. But it's set up to basically go in there and pay the mortgage each month. Now, you can put it on automatic recurring and not even give your VA access to that. You would just obviously want to either make sure you have enough reserves for the automation to come out each month, or, just make sure that there's always enough money in there each month before it goes in. And so that's number 1, making sure that your VA knows how to do that. Your monthly mortgage payment's the biggest piece. Number 2 is you want your VA to have a relationship with the people that are running your property. Because then what happens is all the small questions get filtered through your VA, and your VA can pass on the ones that need to be passed on and not pass on the ones that need to be passed on. And so my VA collects all the questions from any of my tenants and will pass them on to me, and then I get to decipher, and I kind of get to talk to them, to my VA, and go, cool, go back and say we'll do this. It kind of serves as a middle ground, so I don't have to have an hour-and-a-half conversation with each and every one of my tenants every time they need something. And so when we're doing that, I save a lot of time, and it's more of just status updates and checking. The next thing you want your virtual assistant to have access to is a vendors list, right? You want them to have access to a vendors list. So this is a list that you need to sit down and spend about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes just writing down all the vendors that you prefer, right? You need to find your HVAC guys, you need to find your pest control, you need to find your electricians, your plumbers. I will tell you, it's good if you already have a list of those, because now you're using people you like and trust rather than the property management groups, which they'll say that they're licensed and bonded, and that's all great, but they could be using someone that's got an upcharge built into it, right? A lot of property management companies, too, will put an upcharge in them and get kickbacks, even if they don't tell it to you. I've seen a lot of shady things go behind the scenes of even what you would consider premier property management groups. So that's another thing, is making sure that your VA has the vendor list. Because I will tell you, one of the biggest transitions when I decided not to use a property management group and use a virtual assistant for my property management, the hardest part of transition was having to sit on the phone to transfer utilities, or sit on the phone to, talk with Bob the plumber. Bob the plumber was one of my good friends, but it still took forever to get him out to my property because I had to sit on hold. I had to play phone tag. I would call him in the morning, then I was on calls all day. But when my VA is available, then they can take care of it. So my virtual assistant has a Call Hippo number. Put the logo right here. So Call Hippo is the way that my virtual assistant has their own phone number. It can receive text messages, it can receive phone calls. And so my people that rent my properties, they have direct access to that phone number. Inside of Call Hippo, the phone number is labeled Justin's Property Management. And because it's labeled Justin's Property Management, we know that any calls or text message coming to that, which is very little at that time with 2 great tenants, might be like 1 every other month. All those are being directed to there, and I know that I'm not personally having to take care of it. Now, outside of that, guys, I really just wanted to challenge you that if you already have a virtual assistant on your team, when you think about cost savings, if you've got several investment properties, and especially if you live by the properties. I don't live by my property, so it's a little bit harder and it's a little bit more of a risk. But if you live close to your properties and you got 3-4 of them and you're paying a company $300 a month per property, or $200 a month, or $150, and you could have a full-time virtual assistant at $600 a month, $500 a month, $700 a month for rockstar virtual assistants, why would you not? Because now you're breaking even on what you're already paying a company for what will probably take your VA 5 to 6 hours a month total. They can run your books, they can do the whole 9 yards, and then you have them for an additional 35 hours. So I hope that made sense to you guys. I hope you got a little insight into how a virtual assistant can help you manage your properties. Now, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, hit the little bell button that's up there as well. That will notify you each and every time we put out a new video. And if you guys ever have any questions for me, you know where to find me. Now, a shameless plug. Obviously, I run Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants. If you guys ever need a virtual assistant that comes trained in all of these different things, feel free to check out the links in the description. Go to Sphere Rocket VA, and we would be more than happy to connect you with a virtual assistant. We don't run a typical model. We don't really have upcharges in our model. It's a very interesting concept. So would love to have you guys, chat with my team to see if a virtual assistant is right for you guys or not. If not, and you're not ready yet, just keep watching all these different videos. Keep on going to learn more about all the different things that our virtual assistants do for us in our daily real estate business and businesses in general. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Hit like, hit subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.